In Lesson 7.5, you'll be finding the volume of prisms and cylinders. Volume is the measure of the space occupied by a solid. Its label is in units cubed, because it's how many cubes fit inside the shape. The volume of a prism is found by using this formula. Volume equals big BH, where big B stands for the area of the base, and H stands for the height of the prism. The height is always the distance between the two bases. In our first example, we'll be finding the volume of a rectangular prism. We're going to start out by writing down the formula, and that's what I want you to do when you work on your classwork every single time. Volume equals big BH. And since the base of this prism is a rectangle, in place of big B, we're going to write length times width. And then we're going to multiply that by the height of the prism. So the volume, now we're going to plug in the numbers, is going to be 9 times 5. Didn't mean a decimal point, I meant multiply. 9 times 5 times the height, and the height is 6.5. Now you'll multiply those together. 9 times 5 times 6.5 is 292. And then to the nearest tenth, it would be 0.5 or 5 tenths. 292 and 5 tenths centimeters cubed. Next up, we're going to find the volume of a triangular prism. Now the base of this prism is actually this right here. This prism has two triangular bases, and then connecting the two triangular bases is 3 rectangles. So we're going to start by writing down the generic formula. Volume equals area of the base, or big B, times the height. Now this time, since the base is a triangle, we're going to use the formula for the area of a triangle, which is base times height divided by 2. Keep in mind that this B and H have to do with the base and height of the triangle. And then we're going to multiply that by the height of the prism. Now let's plug in the numbers where they belong. Base times height, so it's going to be 6 times 7 divided by 2 times the height of the prism, which is 10. Well, 6 times 7 is 42. 42 divided by 2 is 21, and 21 times 10 is 210. So it's 210 inches cubed. One of the common mistakes students make on this figure is they think that the base is this rectangle that it's sitting on, but really it's the triangle and it's just tipped over on its side. Now you may want to pause the video and try these next two over here on your own. First one, volume equals area of the base times the height. And since the base is a rectangle right here, it's going to be length times width times the height. Or, plugging in the numbers, the length times width, it's going to be 13 times 3 times the height of the prism, which is 8.5. Now you're going to go ahead and multiply those things together. And you're going to end up with 331.5 when we round that to the nearest tenth. 331 and 5 tenths feet cubed. Next, we have a triangular prism again. Here's the base. It is not the rectangle that it's sitting on. It's this triangle right here. So the volume is equal to big B, or the area of the base, times the height. And since the base is a triangle, we're going to write base times height of the triangle divided by 2, and then that answer times the height of the prism. Now let's plug in the numbers where they belong. Volume equals base times height of the triangle, so 8 times 5 divided by 2. That answer is going to be multiplied by the height of the prism. The height of the triangular prism is 12. So 8 times 5 divided by 2, and then that answer times 12 is 240 millimeters cubed. Next up, we're going to find the volume of a cylinder. A cylinder is a prism that has a circle as its base. In this example, the cylinder is tipped over on its side. So here's its base, which is a circle, and the height of the cylinder is right there. We're going to go ahead and write down the formula. Volume equals big BH. Now in place of big B, since it's a circle for the base, we're going to use the formula for area of a circle, which is pi r squared. And then we're going to take that answer times the height of the prism. Now plug in the numbers. Volume equals pi times the radius. The diameter is 13, so the radius is going to be half of that, which is 6.5, squared, times the height of the cylinder, which is 20. Now you're going to go ahead and plug that in and round it to the nearest tenth. So you are going to end up with 2,654 and 6/10 when rounded to the nearest tenth feet cubed. You may want to pause the video and try the next one on your own. We're going to find the volume of this cylinder with a radius of 2 inches and a height of 7 inches. So once again, write down the formula for volume, which is big BH. And since the base is a circle, we're going to replace big B with pi r squared. And then multiply that by the height of the cylinder. Now plug in the numbers where they belong. Pi times the radius. The radius is 2 squared times the height of the cylinder, which is 7. Now when you plug that in, you're going to end up with something that's about 87.96, and then there's some more numbers. But if you want to round this to the nearest tenth, the next number after the tenths place is a 6. We need to round up, and there's no more room to put anything there, so we need to round this to being about 88.0. We do put the 0.0 to show that we've rounded it to the nearest tenth. If we just had 88, then it would show that we rounded it to the nearest whole. 88.0 inches cubed. Now the last thing that we're going to do is find the volume of a composite solid. It says Tanya uses beads shaped like cubes to make jewelry. Each bead has a circular hole through the middle. Find the volume of the bead. Well, we need to find the volume of the cube, then find the volume of this cylinder that's cut out through the middle here, and take that away from the volume of the cube. So let's start by finding the volume of the cube. Volume equals area of the base times the height, and the base is a rectangle, or in this case a square. So that's going to be length times width. And then we're going to multiply that by the height. Now, since this is a cube, the height is also going to be 12 millimeters. So the volume is going to equal 12 times 12, and then that answer times 12, which is going to be 1,728 millimeters cubed. Now next we're going to find the volume of this cylinder that we're going to subtract from the volume of the cube. So the volume of the cylinder is going to equal big BH. In place of big B, since it's a circle for the base, we're going to use pi r squared times the height of the cylinder. So volume equals pi times the radius. Well, this is the diameter of the cylinder, so the radius is going to be 1, and the height is going to also be 12. Now to the nearest tenth, pi times 1 squared times 12 is about 37 and 7/10 millimeters cubed. Now to find the volume of the bead, we're going to go ahead and take the volume of the cube, which is 1,728, and we're going to subtract the volume of the cylinder that's cut out, 37 and 7/10. And when you subtract that, you end up with 1,690 and 3/10 millimeters cubed.